different.
Hello, everyone. This is Data Driven Chat, and I'm thrilled today to introduce to you Parul Pandey, who is a data science evangelist, organizer of Hyderabad Women in Machine Learning and Data Science group, and she's also Kaggle Grandmaster. Hello, Parul. It's so nice to have you with us today.
Hi, Ganna. It's an absolute pleasure to be on your podcast, and I'm also equally thrilled.
Thanks so much for finding the time. I know you're very busy, and we're going to talk about this actually, about how busy you are. So just to kick off our discussion today, can you tell us about your personal journey into data science? Because I know you had also a career break at some point, so you have a very interesting story there. So can you tell us a little bit more about how you got into data science?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I graduated as an electrical engineer. I was into everything related to electrical engineering, from transformers to AC, DC, HVDC, and all sort of things. But when I landed my first job, I was not actually into the core department, but I was into the analytics department. And there I used to analyze the data from the power distribution network and from electronic meters and sort of such things. So I was in a way doing some analysis, but then all of them were actually with the tools that were available with the company, like the paid tools. And then I started thinking about ways in which maybe some of the work that could be automated that we were doing. And then I started looking out what other people were doing, or if there were other companies who were also involved in such analysis. And then I stumbled upon this language called R, and it just blew my mind because I just saw that a lot of tasks that I was doing could be done so simply with that language. And then I went further into it, and then I actually got to know about a course that was happening on Coursera. And I got so hooked into it, then, that was like sort of, you could say, my turning point, and where I just realized there's so much more to analytics than just simply crunching numbers. And from there, then slowly and gradually over the years, I learned, I talked to people, I saw what was happening, online courses, offline courses, self-study, Kaggle, and it sort of happened. And each day I'm again learning, but that is how I actually got into this whole field of data science.
Mm-hmm. So that's quite a journey, and I think the cool part is that you actually studied engineering. We don't have many women, on this podcast who started in engineering, because I think. We have quite a few who came from social sciences or even humanities sometimes. So it's not, it's quite, I guess back in the day, it also was quite an unusual career path, right?
Yeah, because even in my undergraduation, we had about 70 to 80 boys, and we were like 6 girls.
Oh, God.
And we were all made to sit so the first row was only left for us. Mm-hmm. And so even if we wanted to be backbenchers, we didn't have any choice. So it was like 6 of us. We had to, for the projects also, only we were the options. So boys would make groups with themselves, and girls had to make. So that's this huge problem I faced.
Boys versus girls in engineering.
Yeah, it was all very weird. And this is something I think that still percolates down to the data science field also. The gender ratio is still a big, big concern.
I know that you have done quite a few interviews, so I think many people would be familiar with your work. But for those who are not familiar with your work, can you pick one most important thing you have achieved during your career, something you're particularly proud of, and tell us about it?
Yeah, so I think recently there's been a lot of noise about that. Though the title of Grandmaster on Kaggle is something I'm really, really proud, because not just because it's this Grandmaster title and now I can just show off. Mm-hmm. It's because it's something that I could never thought that I would become a Grandmaster one day, because I had completely 360 degrees switched my career. And at one point of time, I used to look at grandmasters like, this level, I mean, it's just impossible to reach. But then last year, I actually took it upon myself that it isn't impossible. And I think if I'll put in right amount of effort and will continue persistently, I think it is achievable. So this is an example which I had to set not for myself, but also for the women in the group which I lead, to show them that it doesn't matter if you come from a very different background, if you did not study computer science into your undergraduation, or you are not a data scientist by your first job. Things are achievable. You just need to work towards them, by take it as a goal and start working in smaller steps to achieve that. I'm a very big advocate of Kaggle. So for me, it was, if I'm a very big advocate of Kaggle, I have to actually prove myself in that field. So that was the reason why I actually started doing Kaggle. And then I just got hooked into it. And then ultimately this June, I actually achieved that status of Grandmaster. And this is something I'm really, really proud of.
Well, congratulations. I also want to, so I think there are people who work in data science. They obviously know Kaggle, or at least many of them know Kaggle. Yes. But we also have some of the listeners of this podcast are people who just kind of are aspiring data scientists and not quite in tune with all the jargon and all the existing competitions. So can you just, for those people who do not know what it is, can you explain what does it mean to be a Kaggle Grandmaster? And for those who are not familiar with the platform, can you explain what Kaggle is and what Kaggle Grandmasters do, or what do you have to do to become one?
Yeah, so Kaggle is an online data science community and a platform rather, where data scientists or data science enthusiasts or even people from different backgrounds, they come over the platform and they interact in the form of in a lot of ways. So one of them, and I think the most famous one is, so there are sort of tiers maybe. So one of them is competition. So Kaggle hosts a lot of machine learning competitions. So in a way, Kaggle, those competitions are not Kaggles, but there are companies who actually use Kaggle as a platform to host their competitions. And the idea is to sort of crowdsource their problem. And when the best of the minds and the best data scientists of the entire world, they may be working in different companies, but they come onto the platform and they try to solve that problem for them. And there are usually prizes for that. And for the top three, and if you don't win prizes, then there are points that you get and medals that you get. And so similar to competitions, there are other ways also in which you can interact with people. One of the ways is notebooks. There is where you explore data. You can explore your own data set or whatever is available on Kaggle. You can explore that. You can even explore the competition's data. You can also host your data set there. You can put interesting data sets for other people to actually use it and do some meaningful analysis. And lastly, you can discuss, you can indulge in discussions. You could, if you have a problem, you can put in forums, you can ask them. So this is sort of an end-to-end, you could say data science platform, which is everything from beginner level to advanced level. And so for all of these four different, you could say groups, you get medals for when you achieve some status, you get some medals. So you get bronze and silver and gold. And so when you achieve some specific kind of gold medals, then you attain the title of Grandmaster. So I have become a Grandmaster in the notebooks category. So there you are required to have at least 15 gold medals. And when you get those, then you get that status. And it's just like in chess, we have the Grandmasters, that's the topmost level. In the same way, in Kaggle also, you start from an expert, then you become a master, and then ultimately you become a Grandmaster.
Cool.
So that is the highest level, you could say, of expertise shown on Kaggle.
Can you tell us also, like, I'm just wondering why Kaggle? Because, like, for example, like at the Alan Turing Institute, we have hackathons and we have data study groups and a lot of things. But I also know that companies run them, right? Like Google runs regular competitions. I think Facebook runs competition. So why Kaggle? Why? What attracts? What makes Kaggle special? Like, why did you choose it? Why, what is about this platform that is different from others?
Yeah, so Kaggle, so I also interact on other platforms also, and I like some others also. There's Zindi and Driven Data, and there's Analytics with there. So what is special about Kaggle is Kaggle sort of becomes a family. So you start knowing people over there, and then I have seen a lot of people, they collaborate on competitions. And when they tell me that they met on Kaggle, and from Kaggle, then they went on to win competitions. And then after that, they went on to write research papers. Now they're working together. So, and it's not limited to hackathons, just like I said. So if you're not interested in competing for those metrics, and so you could host your own competitions there. If I have a women in machine learning group, Kaggle gives me the ability to host my own competitions. So it gives me a platform which is ready, which has a lot of people. And another important thing is there are a lot of people, like there are more than 4 million people who are currently on Kaggle. So this gives a chance to interact with a lot of people at one instance of time. And probably because I work in a company where there are also a lot of grandmasters, Kaggle grandmasters, that is also one of the reasons.
Cool. So, so the next question I want to ask you is more about kind of the skill set of a data scientist. And a lot of students that I have are also coming from executive background. And very often they are wondering, whether they should learn coding. Like, how important is the ability to code and other technical skills for someone doing what you do, Parul? But also, what is more important, ability to code or knowledge of mathematics and statistics? So what is more important, like the background knowledge, understanding algorithms, or the actual ability to code in a particular program, in particular language, sorry.
Right. So data science itself is a very, very wide field, and it's actually impossible to be expert at everything. So a lot of people, they fall into this trap, especially the ones who are transitioning from different backgrounds into data science, maybe non-programming backgrounds. They think that, they will have to master everything. They'll have to master programming. They'll have to master the algebra and statistics. And again, if you go deeper into data science, deep learning, machine learning, and natural language processing, computer vision, all sort of things. And then they get confused. So firstly, I think for any data aspirant, a data science aspirant, it's important to realize that whenever you see some data, you should be able to sort of think like, what can you do with this data? How do you look at this data by just seeing data or just delving into it? What are the important insights you can bring out? So today, I think the ultimate return of investment on any data science project is always related to business. Ultimately, it's companies who want to see so every data science problem is converted into a business problem, and ultimately everyone is seeing what is the return on investment. So for them, it is actually not even necessary that how you did your analysis. Today, you have a lot of tools which are available, which doesn't require you to code, which are like automated stuff, point and click. But what you should know is what you're looking for, how you have to analyze this data. Having said that, having some experience in coding and statistics is helpful, because if you know how to code, then you can actually, you don't have to blindly rely on the tools that you're given, and you can sort of create your own ways to analyze data or drill down into data. And I think coding is one thing, or programming is one important aspect which is not difficult to learn, I think. if you are interested in learning some new skills, I think coding is the most easiest thing on this planet that you can do. It's just that it's just a mind barrier that, oh my God, is because what we see all the coding or all the computer engineers are the ones who are just writing millions of lines of codes. It's not that, even very simple. And that programming skills actually helps you to develop your thinking and thinking out of the box. So you don't have to be a master there, but you could start, if you are enrolling into a data science course, you could side by side take up a programming language. Python, I think it's a very nice and simple language, and it's used a lot in data science. And you can do that side by side. You can take some courses on stats, very simple courses are available. So I think having little knowledge, a mix of all of them will be useful.
So yeah, I guess so. Yeah, and you also mentioned the network, right? I guess if you do have technical skills, if you develop them, that's how you meet people, right? Because like you have a problem. Like I just had an outcry on LinkedIn saying, I'm trying to learn how to program in Julia. Immediately, and first no one answered, but then eventually I found people now who said, we're having the same issues. So, but if you're not, if you don't have these problems, right? You don't, you never meet new people. I guess you just.
So all of us, I think a lot of times we always think, we always think that only we are the ones who are having the problem because we always learn in isolation. But when we just look outside, we see there are lots of people who are facing the same issues, and it's good to get into some forums or join some groups. And sometimes what may be a problem for you may not be a problem for others. And there'll be hundreds of people who will say, we face the same problem and this is the way you should approach this. So I think learning, especially when you're learning for the first time, it's always good to learn in a group or in a network where you could discuss your ideas. And with people who have some prior experience, there would be people who will be absolutely new. So that way gives you a lot of confidence because you are able to answer some questions. And then there you have people from whom you can ask questions.
Yeah, I think that's very important. So you mentioned that probably learning Python is a good idea. So imagine that I'm someone who just started in data science. Can you give a person who wants to start doing some data science an advice on or some tips on where to start? So what do you do first? Do you take some online classes? Do you find a practical problem, try to solve it? So yeah, how do you start and what skills should you concentrate on when you're, trying to get into?
So I'll say how I basically started. So that time, it has been some time, I started with R, and I really find R to be a very good statistical language. But then languages, you could even start with Python, so that it's immaterial. So there's a course on edX actually called Analytics Edge. And by far, I think even today, I think that's one of the best courses that I've ever had on data science because it approached data science not from the typical bottom-up approach, that's starting like this is Python, then study about this, then this is linear regression this way. It approached a very different fashion. It first showed you an example. And from that example, it showed how you can convert this into a data science problem. I still remember there was this problem of Moneyball. So there's this movie that was a very famous movie that we had a few years back.
Yeah, with Brad Pitt. So if you haven't watched it, if you on the other side listening, it's got Brad Pitt in it, so you should see it.
Absolutely marvelous movie. And the course actually told us about that movie, and then it went back telling that how this movie is based upon this book. And I actually went and I read the book also. And so then, I just realized, that is data science. That is how data science is used in real world. As opposed to a lot of other courses, which I see, they always tell you first they'll go with algorithms, then they'll go with everything till a person gets bored, and then they'll go into the real use case. So that way you should approach. You should look for problems. And for instance, what you can do is, you are thinking about creating an app which could differentiate between two things. For instance, you click a picture of and it should identify that this picture belongs to a keyboard, this picture belongs to a mouse. And you have that problem, but you don't know how do you solve it. And then you start researching about that, how I can solve it. And then you'll read about computer vision. Then you'll read about algorithms, deep learning. And that way you go. So that was the sort of approach that I had actually used. And so this makes it a lot more interesting. And then side by side, I was also honing my skills, programming skills, because it's not that you could just sit down one day and say for the first 2 months, I only do programming. For the next 2 months, I'll do data science. Everything has to be done together so that, it doesn't become boring. Mm-hmm. And so I was particularly doing that course, and that was in R. But after I had some experience with Python, I just did all these exercises with Python also, which gave me a very good experience. And then you switch on to Kaggle, maybe. And you don't necessarily need to compete for competitions and thinking of, I have to get a medal. Just see what other people are doing. Try to do simple analysis just for yourself. You don't have to sort of tell everybody, I became an expert on Kaggle, I became a grandmaster. No, because Kaggle has a lot of data sets, and you have a lot of people who have actually done some analysis, and they do keep their work as notebooks. So you can see whether, you're learning something new. You could learn something from them. You could appreciate that work. You'll create a network also that way. So this way, you'll be doing everything together. And even after maybe 6 or 7 months, you'll really feel very confident about yourself.
Mm-hmm. So now I have a trick question for you. So imagine that I asked you exactly the same question, but where to start, except instead of a person, I asked you about a woman. So as a woman, where do you start in data science, and what skills do you need to develop first? I guess the question is, would your answer change to the previous question, or would you say exactly the same thing?
Well, if you talk about learning data science, then I think my answer won't change. But when you have to go ahead, you have to network with people. There I would just say that if you are a woman, and even today, I think there's a huge gender ratio problem in the entire STEM industry, and the same percolates to data science also. It's not different at all. And so you have to make sure that you have a good support of other female members, because today what I see, whenever there's a job in any department, I see the men, they're going to, and if the company asks it, if you want to refer somebody, so men have a tendency of referring only men.
Yeah, mentorship issue.
Yeah, so we actually don't even know there were jobs, and then women are always working in isolation. Half of them take a career break, and they start feeling that, their life is over, their career is over, and all this thing. So having support groups, strong networking is really, really helpful. So for women, instead of networking, when they're trying to look for a job, it's very important that you start networking at the start of your journey, so that by the time you are ready to apply for a job, you already have a lot of people, support, networks, resources, and things like that. A lot of women, they miss out on a lot of things because they're always alone. So today they decide, okay, I have to apply for a job. They'll apply through the normal, regular process of online career. They'll go to the career page of some company, they'll apply there, and it's all automated and stuff like that. And then they start, thinking, now what should I do? Whom should I approach? I don't know anybody in this field. So for them, I would always say, start creating a strong network, because there are similar women who are in the same situation. And for women as women, it's even more important for us.
So you already mentioned that, we do have an issue with female representation in STEM-related sectors. I just want to stay with women. I mean, I know that we could also kind of expand to diversity and inclusion.
Exactly, underrepresented groups.
Yeah, because women is not there. So just for the listeners, don't worry. We Parul and myself, we understand that there are other groups that are important and we need to discuss them. But we will, for now, concentrate on women probably, because the two of us probably know about this more and about other groups.
Yeah.
So you describe Kaggle community as very kind of friendly and, like there is a lot of support, there is networking and all that. So why do you think are there so few female Kaggle Grandmasters? So there is Rachel Tatman, right? And you?
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it, or are there any more? So, yeah, I'm just wondering, what do you think is the reason why there are so few female Kaggle Grandmasters? Is that because, you need to follow through with this? You need to be very persistent, like people give up in the middle, or like what's going on?
Yeah, so there are like 2-3 aspects to it. So one of the aspect is the female ratio. Obviously, they're less in the data science community is actually very less. So definitely, so the thing, it just goes on. So one thing is that, so of course, there are few females here in data science. But with Kaggle, so I had also done a lot of analysis, which is based on actually the women representation in Kaggle and why there are so few. So it was like the women representation Kaggle is like 16%, and that has stayed the same. Since the last 3 years. It's not increasing at all. So one of the reason is there are a lot of data scientists actually doing women data scientists and women in data science and machine learning, and they're doing exceptionally well. I think in research also we see, but they're not active in Kaggle. And that may be because I don't think, maybe they don't find like additional value because they are doing some great work themselves. A lot of people use Kaggle as a means to showcase their work. So one reason could be that, they're happy with what they're doing and they don't want to get into the competitive data science field. So that's one. Secondly, when I had talked to another female who is into Kaggle and she is an expert, and she told me that, she was taking part in a competition and she was doing great and she was about to win a gold medal. But then when the final results came out, she dropped one level down and she got a silver. She had a 1-year-old baby. So, and then that time she realized like, oh my God, I spent my 3 and 4 months to get that gold, and now in the last moment it went to silver. And I have a baby and I neglected my baby also a few times, and that sort of guilt came up. And then she's like, what is the use? Even after, like, she says, I know my basics. I know how to formulate a problem and do. So what difference does it, a silver and a gold and a bronze make? So there's this aspect also, the competitiveness aspect. And thirdly, of course, like, I think for me also, when I have to work on Kaggle sometimes, I have to balance everything. I have to make sure I'm giving enough time to my kid. I have my other job, full-time job also. So sometimes I have to actually see, like, is it worth putting so much effort here? Or it's okay. Kaggle is just one aspect of data science. You cannot just get mad about it. So I think that happens. So time is of essence here, I think. And then is it valuable actually? Why do you want to? Everybody goes on Kaggle. They have something in mind. I think a lot of students I see today are very active in Kaggle. And that includes girls also, which are very happy because right now, I think they have a lot of time to invest in Kaggle. But as you go in your careers, then other things also pile up. And then taking out time for Kaggle becomes another important issue. And for females, it's even difficult. If you talk about females who have more than one kid at home, and if they are the ones who are taking care of the babies, I think it's a real issue.
Yeah, so I think, I really hear you when you talked about guilt, especially. So I also have a 4-year-old, and I'm doing, I don't know how many projects right now, and it's sometimes gets kind of, you are thinking.
Even though our families would always say that it's okay.
I also have very supporting husband. Like yourself. It
just happened why it happens. I know that female and motherly instinct that comes into play, and you always, that sense of guilt sometimes it just comes out. And happens with me also. And sometimes I just close everything and I'll play with you. I tell my son, I'll play with you. Don't worry. Because he explicitly told me one day that, Mama, you're always on Kaggle. And oh my God.
My son once told me, "Oh, mom, remember the good old days when we used to play the entire day?"
Yeah, so that happens.
Yeah. So, you are you very active in kind of promoting diversity in STEM, and I want to talk a little bit more about your work with this group that you have, Women in Machine Learning and Data Science in Hyderabad. So we talked about your personal achievements. So how about the achievements of your community? So since the existence of this community, what do you think it has achieved, and what are you most proud of?
So we are a little fairly new community. So I started this group in October 2019. And once I started it, initially it was literally very difficult to get females to attend the meetup, actually, because it used to happen on weekdays, and a lot of people, they were working, and they said that, after 5 day a week, Saturday is the only time that they get to spend with their family. But then we started seeing other avenues, how we could get them connected. And then we started our virtual meetups also. We started recording our meetups so that even they could see. And then initially we used to have speakers, experts in the area. And then we even started ways in which we could get the females from the group to speak up. So one of the issues that I noticed was a lot of females, they want to speak, they want to give lectures, they want to speak in conferences, but then they have never got that chance. Because, what actually happens is if you see all the conferences and they have their CFPs and call for papers, a lot of criteria in a lot of conferences, one of the criteria is, have you actually spoken before this? And this becomes a major criterion that people who have prior experience in conferences get selected more often than the ones for whom it's the first time.
So you're thinking, sorry to interrupt. Yeah, so so you think that they don't have the platform, right, where to start as a speaker?
Because they don't have platform, they don't get the real kind of feedback that they want. And I know public speaking is not that easy, and technical public speaking is equally even more difficult. And so we floated this idea that, we're going to organize every month one meetup will be for the members here, and you would take a topic of your choice and you have to speak whatever you want to. And so initially we literally had to push them to speak, but then slowly people started volunteering. They said, okay, this month we want to speak, this is our topic. And that way, I think there were a lot of females who started speaking up, and I really felt happy when few of those women today have gone out and spoken on other platforms also. And they send me messages, that there is this local other meetup happening, and we are part of that. And now we've been called as speakers and guests. And this for me is, I think, one of the best ways in which this group could have evolved. And we have further plans also, maybe. Another most important aspect for us is a lot of females in our group are the ones who had taken a career break, but now they cannot get back to their working life because they have considerable amount of gap. So one of things that I am working on is helping them to, start working again, and maybe if not in companies, maybe freelancing. So that way, honing their skills and maybe seeing some other avenues in which we could get together and start doing consultations, and so that they could become consultants or freelance data scientists or programmers or software developers. So this is another aspect that I've been working now.
So how many members do you have?
So currently we have about 900 members.
Oh, wow. That's a big group.
So that has men also. Otherwise, so men have started joining the group also because of COVID, when it went virtual, completely virtual nowadays. So I saw that there's a jump in the men membership or the registrations also.
Oh, that's cool. So yeah, yeah, I guess I have kind of two follow-up questions. So the first question is about this all female-only events. So I read in one of your interviews that you are a proponent of these events. Tell me if I just got it wrong. You know, sometimes you get kind of misquoted in the interviews, but yeah. So basically, yeah, I am not very sold on female-only events. The reason why I say that is just, you know, it seems to me like, for example, at least the men I talk to, they do not always take this competition seriously, or these groups seriously, or these events seriously, when it's kind of all female events. So, it's kind of like, you know, you have Olympics and Paralympics, so you have like male soccer and female soccer. And in a sense, you know, there's nothing wrong with Paralympics, there's nothing wrong with female soccer, but they kind of put you in a different niche, you know?
Yeah.
So I guess like the question is, how do you feel about this? I mean, is it still important to have female-only events? I'm not saying that, you know, my opinion is kind of gold standard, so I'm happy like to listen to other point of view. And a follow-up question to that is, how do we improve the perception of these events? Because, you know, like we have all these events like CODAS, for example, right? And like that are specifically targeted at females, so female tech meetups and all this. Like in England, we have quite a few networks where they're only women. And I myself got some awards, kind of in female category without kind of necessarily applying there. But like what is the value of these events, and how can we improve their status to make people think that these are actually worthwhile events?
Yeah, so I think that's a very, very good question. And yes, I do get asked about this a lot of times. So I'll just tell you why did we start and what we think. So when I conducted one of my meetups early last year, so there were like only 3 females. So it was an open meetup, and there were just 3 females, and rest nearly about like 70 were men. And so when the questions came, or that questions slot came, no female asked questions. So it was all men, and they were asking all sorts of questions. I mean, even it was off the topic. So if it was about the presentation was on one specific thing, it was on automated machine learning. They were asking every sort of question from every possible thing that they could think about in data science realm. So after that got over, the females, they approached me, and then they started asking about the questions. And they had a lot of questions, and they had a lot of excellent questions, actually. And their questions made a lot of sense, even more than the ones that I got asked from the men. And I asked them that, why didn't you ask these questions in the session? So, and they just shrugged off. They just gave me a smile. They said, you know what, we tried 2 or 3 times, but then, you know, we raised our hand, but then, you know, nobody saw us, and we were right at the back, and there's a lot of commotion. So we thought, let's wait for it. And that time it just struck me that, you know, so there are different aspects of female. There are some females who are very confident. They don't care about who's in the room. Even if they're the single female, they'll just ask questions and they'll put their thoughts. But there are some who are not so confident. And so then I thought maybe we could start a group where all the females could be brought together, and they could be encouraged to ask questions and ask confidently. And that way, when after that they go into open groups, so they are no more, you know, sitting on the end and quietly just listening to what other people have to say. So I believe that now these women-only communities are thriving. There are a lot of women-only communities, even in India, even in the place that I stay. But I think I don't want it to be just to stay there, just to stay in a women-only community. I want that once you come up, you recognize your skills, you start working on them, and then you definitely have to go out and you have to mingle with the open communities also. You have to make your mark over there. So this community what my point of view is when having such communities is that the competition is always going to be open. So we cannot just always say, we are going to participate only in women-only competitions or women-only conferences or women-only events. Ultimately, you have to go out. Ultimately, you have to work in teams. And again, the ratio might still be biased over there. But there are some things that you can learn by coming into these communities. You can definitely work on your confidence level, the way you ask questions, the way you get to know certain aspects of competitions by working only women-only competitions. It gets easier to actually connect. Especially why in Kaggle it matters more, because you hardly find females to team up. Even if you find female, there'll be like 3 men and 1 female in a group. Mm-hmm. So when female-only competitions happen, you actually get people to collaborate, and then that collaboration can work even in future. So I participated in a women-only competition with 3 of my other colleagues. But after that competition got over, I had requests from so many other females saying that, let's just collaborate on the next competition. And so that they don't have to wait. So this just opened certain avenues for some of the females. Ultimately, my aim is to actually encourage those women to go and participate in normal Kaggle competition and just make your mark over there.
Mm-hmm. So, so I guess, and I think you also mentioned the mentorship, right? That men kind of tend to mentor men. This is, I guess, how you also could find mentors. Is that?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Even though there are a lot of people who say that it's a very bad notion, when females only look for female mentors and men only look for men mentors. Mm-hmm. I feel mentors can be anybody with whom you're comfortable. But if females are comfortable with female mentors, then there is no question about it. I mean, there are some people who don't find this notion right, that why females going for female mentors. I feel it's about your comfort level. And if you're able to connect with, a female is able to connect with other female, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I do like how you kind of position it as a maybe kind of the beginner's level, and maybe before you gain your confidence, you should probably be more in the community that you are more comfortable with, and I guess that's where female community fits. But then, as you go out and kind of prove your worth in other.
Ultimately, we'll have to prove it there only, because we have to show the world that we don't want we can do well at any level.
Yeah,
at every
exactly.
level we can do well.
Yeah, that's kind of what we have in academia. Very often you are invited, like you said, there is a panel and there are a bunch of men and 1 female.
Yeah, and that female is only, and that what happens is sometimes that female is only invited just to fill the position. Not because of her work.
This is it. And I often do ask, so why did you invite me? And if I get this answer, I don't go. So, that's the worst thing when you are there just for the gender balance, and, you want to be there because, you have something to say. So I think that's very important. So I have another trick question for you. And, so in the media, you are often called the first Indian female Kaggle Grandmaster. And again, I might be wrong there, but I would hate if someone called me the first behavioral data science British female professor of Eastern European origin or something like this. That would raise my eyebrow anyway. And so I'd rather just go by behavioral data scientist, for example. So how do you feel about carrying this kind of cultural and national origins in your titles? Is it important to you, and why is it important to you if it is important to you?
So, to be very frank, this is not important to me at all. I think the people who actually shared my achievement with the world, I think they
we can
positioned in such a way.
Yeah, we can blame Abhishek Thakur.
I like to be called as a grandmaster, Kaggle Grandmaster. So I've not even updated on my LinkedIn, but it's on my Twitter, because I want to be another grandmaster. So when people talk about grandmasters, so my name is also one of them. And I feel good to be in a company of such good people. Why I think people are trying to put that women factor. So Indian, I don't know why.
Well, I can tell you, I heard the first time I heard it was from Abhishek Thakur.
Okay, yeah, he did.
And then I heard it from like a bunch of other people. Like it was like I think on every single panel you've been in since you got the title. I heard that description. So I guess but like my thinking was that maybe. Someone could prefer it because again, like you want to give an example.
So, but I think why people are trying to emphasize it that way is because, maybe some of them, like I think Abhishek is trying to tell the other females of the community, because now he's also very socially active on social platforms, that look, Kaggle Grandmaster is not the domain of only males. So like she's done it, and I think it's equally possible for every other female also. Indian one, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought maybe, again, this is an example thing. Like maybe, like that Indian women can also do it. Maybe they are...
because that Indian aspect would only make sense in India. I think people outside India, they say, oh, what do we do? She's the only Indian. But I think why people are trying to emphasize on the women part is because the ratio is so less. And they just want the other females also to know that, look, it's possible. She could do it. She's from a very different background. She's a mother also. She's doing full-time job also. So Kaggle Grandmaster is not something going to the moon. It's achievable. So that's, I think, they're trying to put in. And maybe after a few days, I think it will just stick to Kaggle Grandmaster only. Maybe the hype of recent days, maybe.
So we talked a lot about diversity and inclusivity, at least the female aspect of this problem, and you have already told us a lot of things that you are doing to change to change the balance. So let's kind of move on to maybe some other topics. And one thing I wanted to ask you is you have been very open about motherhood and career. So I read again in one of your interviews, you were very, very detailed about, how it went, and that you had a complete career change during the career break that you had. So, but I wanted to ask you, what will be the first thing you teach your son, or what was the first thing you taught your son about data science? So just coming kind of from the kind of mother's position.
I wish he listens to me. But probably right now, if I'm even whatever in a little small way, I'm able to tell him something about data science is how you should always not go by what you're feeling. So sometimes I think questions and he tells me, I think it is this. So always telling, don't go by with your gut feeling. See what resources do you have and see for proofs, and only then you should come on conclusion. If I ask him, okay, you read this story, now tell me what happened. He says, I think this must be that must be that. So I said, no, what is in the story? Tell me from the story. See, in small ways, I'm telling him to actually see data, analyze data, and then come with conclusions from the data and not by just guessing work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's extremely important. So in terms of, let's just kind of zoom out from diversity, inclusion, and motherhood, and back to data science. So kind of where we started. And obviously, we cannot avoid the question about coronavirus. So coronavirus affected many people's lives. You mentioned that it affected the group that you are leading, in the sense that you now have online meetups. So do you think data science and AI can help solve the current crisis? Because I had people on this podcast saying different things. Some say, oh, we totally shouldn't touch that topic and let people who know about disease and, who actually who know a lot about the context and this area to get involved. Or, others say we should only work in collaboration with with epidemiologists, and others say we shouldn't touch it at all. We don't know the quality of data we're dealing with. So which side of the spectrum are you at with this?
So I think as a person who is working in the data science domain, I would say that it's essential to know that where you have to apply or where you should apply the data science or AI for that matter. Now, today, I think a lot of predictions have gone wrong with people using AI to predict. And then we just have to realize what is the core problem that you are facing for a situation like COVID, which is absolutely new for everybody, right? From doctors to epidemiologists to data science practitioners. And people started, doing the normal stuff of predictions that they do, and it just fell flat because it did not conform to the normal pattern. I think it's about using the AI technologies where it could matter the most. For me, I think today one of the biggest problems that is happening in COVID is identifying who has COVID, and that happens after you perform the test. And the tests itself are taking a lot of time. So by the time the results come out and you come to know this person is infected, and then you go and quarantine that person, by that time he's already spread it to other 10 different individuals. So if the testing part is actually hastened, and there we could use maybe your data science or artificial intelligence skills, I think there it could be, it could help us more than if we go on predicting number of individuals who will be affected. Mm-hmm. I think that is how I think about this whole situation and how we could use data science.
So let's go from the topic of COVID, kind of zoom out even more onto the future of data science. So what do you think is the future of data science? How will it develop in the next 5 years? What will be the hot topics that we will observe maybe in the near future and in the relatively long-term future, looking over 5 years?
So I think with a lot of computational power that we're having and a lot of research and big companies investing into it, I think the future of data science is very bright. But if we just look from these research companies to places like, especially I come from India and it's a developing country and there are other countries, there I think data science holds even more promise because these countries have a lot of data and they're sitting on a lot of data. You could say gold mine of data. And right now the problem that is happening is we are using data of the West to make predictions for countries like India. But if we use data which is being generated in our very own country, especially Asian countries, we have a lot of population, and then it is used for these countries, because like if I talk about my own country, a lot of it can be done when it comes to data science. Even though we would have progressed in the West, still from healthcare to maybe other aspects, it is these countries that I think we need to put more focus in. And in a way, then I think maybe the benefit of machine learning will come out, because there are for some of the people, I think they are privileged enough, and maybe if they don't even get the latest technologies, it's okay. But for the countries who are developing, if we were able to use machine learning to increase communication, to better the healthcare, to better the education, there I think, I guess the real benefit of machine learning or data science in that matter will help. Mm-hmm. And all the developments in the West, when translated to these countries, will really, really help them mm-hmm. in the coming future.
Yeah, I think you mentioned quite a few important directions there. And yeah, I personally would also like to see, data science kind of as not as a development lift, I guess, right? As a kind of, we have social lifts, but I mean, this is a development lift.
I feel a lot of times we are using artificial intelligence and machine learning capabilities to create new products and, the products for the people who are actually already, like they don't even require just an additional thing. People say, okay, we've got new speakers. We have new text to speech. You can just sit at your place and you can talk and computer will. These are good products. But real value will come when there's a person who's in a remote area who doesn't have a hospital and we are able to, and who doesn't even know the language. For instance, there's a patient in India and he has some serious issue and we have to consult him with a doctor who is in US and the person doesn't know English, and then you translate things. You are able to do something that way in order to help that person in a remote area. I think that actual machine learning makes a lot of sense in such situations.
Yeah, let's strive for data science changing lives and outcomes. Yes. So that would be great. Can you tell us, we're almost at the end of the interview, and I just have two more questions to ask. One about, the last question that I normally have is about book and film recommendations, which everybody complains about. But before I ask you that, can you tell us what are you currently working on? What makes you excited? What keeps you awake at night?
So right now, as part of my job, also I'm working on the automated machine learning. So these are tools which essentially help people who are for smaller companies also to utilize the power of machine learning. So there are companies, bigger companies, which have all the resources. They have the great team of data scientists from MIT, from Stanford. But there are the smaller companies which are working on some good issues, but they don't have that capacity and the capability to get the best data scientists onto their team. So we create automated machine learning products to help such companies also to become AI-driven companies. So that, like we say, AI to do AI. So we work on those things. We try to automate some of the stuffs, and we bring out those products. We take in feedback from people, and that's pretty interesting when you start automating this whole process of some of the aspects of machine learning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think, that's not only complex, but also very ambitious and, exciting, and kind of addresses what you were saying about, changing lives, trying to make a difference. Yeah. So here we come. Here's the question that all guests complain about. And it goes like this. If you could recommend one book for people to read and one film to watch, what would be your recommendations?
I won't complain with this question because I'm a bookworm. So I definitely, in fact, people always tell me that you give always you suggest books. So I think you should start suggesting books. So since this is a data science podcast, there's a book called The Naked Statistics. That's by Charles Whelan. Mm-hmm. It's especially for people who don't come from a stats background. So that book it's kind of a stats class which you never had. It's one of the most fun way in which you could learn basic statistics. I think it's a very important book to be kept in your collection if you are into data science or trying to learn statistics. And
film,
one movie. So I don't remember a lot of movies, but I just recently saw this movie on Netflix. It's called the child who. I forgot. The Boy Who Harnessed the Wind. Mm-hmm. It's a nice movie. It's a documentary actually about a boy who was in Africa and he did not have any resources, and how he sort of created a windmill out of nothing. And it's about his determination and about his the sheer the fact that he wanted to do something good for his village because they were reeling from drought. So I normally watch only documentaries, and it's a very good movie to watch, and it's a family movie. So even you could encourage your children also to watch that.
Sounds great. Thank you so much, Parul, for finding the time to talk to me today. I think we covered a lot of different issues. Thank you for your perspective also on STEM, and it's I think it's great to see that not only we talk about the problem, but we also do something to solve it. And it was such a pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you so much, and good luck with everything that you are doing.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And I think it was fun discussing with you. We could have gone on for another 2 hours also. So thank you so much for having me. I had a great time.
Thanks a lot. Thank you.